Episode 34, Three Man and a Comic Book, was originally aired on May 9th, 1991, and is the second season finale of The Simpsons. Sort of. We'll talk about it in tomorrow's episode, but this particular episode was written by Jeff Martin and directed by Wes Archer. In the episode, Bart, Milhouse, and Martin pool their money together to buy the first ever Radioactive Man comic book from Comic Book Guy. They discover that they are unable to share the comic, and due to their mistrust of each other, end up destroying it. In the episode, you have guest appearances by Cloris Leachman and Daniel Stern, which, funny enough, Daniel Stern fits in here because his brother, David Stern, was working on the series as a writer at the time. And this was also around the time that Daniel Stern was breaking big out with Home Alone, which was still very much in the box office at this time, at the top 10, because Home Alone was in the box office for a long period of time, but that's another story altogether. And recurring characters making their first appearance in here are the aforementioned Comic Book Guy, Radioactive Man, and Mrs. Glick, voiced by Leachman in this outing. And you get a sense of it. You get a sense overall about this episode right from the get-go. It's a pretty bizarre episode. A lot of it is really funny, but some of it is just pretty damn cruel. Particularly the scenes where Bart is helping Mrs. Glick, which apparently was based on a real thing that happened to writer Jeff Martin when he was a kid. It was based on an old lady Martin had his brother used to do chores for when they were kids, and they said they pulled weeds until their hands would bleed, and yet they were only paid 2 quarters for several hours of work. I mean, it's cruel and ungodly, unbearable to watch Bart go through this. Like, he is literally working his butt off to get to this point, and it just basically goes, it's just basically like, yeah, I felt for you feel bad for Bart, and you feel for the writer, because you could just tell that this was therapy for him putting that in there, but none of this compares to the insanity of the end of this episode, where Bart, Martin, and Milhouse lose their sanity and try to share the comic book, but just simply cannot do it. The end is a great homage to films like Treasure of the Sierra Madre and Saboteur, and even manages to throw in a bit of Lord of the Rings in there, like many years before the Lord of the Rings movies. The lighting and the music perfectly fits the dramatics of the sequence very well, and it just all comes together really well for an insane but pretty epic ending to this episode. But nothing is more funnier than watching, because in the episode, Martin is tied up because Bart and Milhouse think that he's going to take the comic from them. And when this whole thing happens, when Bart's trying to save Milhouse, Martin's just like, you know, I could have helped you save him if you would have just if you didn't tie me up. Like, the way that line is presented is just so well done. And there are some great, funny, dark moments. One of my favorite jokes in the entire show is where Mrs. Glick is telling the story of her brother dying in the war, and it flashes back to him with a grenade in his hand, going on this long diatribe. It's just like, this one's for you, Kaiser Bill. Special delivery from Uncle Sam and all the boys in D Company. Yeah, Johnny, Harris, Brooklyn Bob, and Reggie. Yeah, Reggie. You ain't so stuck up once you get to know it. And the grenade goes off, and then it kills him. And his hand just goes flying off the screen. Because it pans away while he's on this dialogue, and then all of a sudden you just hear the explosion. Ba-boom! And then his hand just completely comes into picture, and it's one of the funniest moments I've ever seen from The Simpsons ever, and it's a moment that I just still remember even after all these years later. Just top-notch comedy right there. This is a good one that mixes dark comedy with the normal type of comedic hijinks that the season has brought us, but as far as the Three Men in the Comic Book goes as being one of the show's best episodes, I wouldn't say it really is. It's a good episode, but you could see where it's going in the third act, and even though it has kind of a badass ending to it, it was written in stone to happen the minute Bart offered the deal to Martin and Milhouse to split the money on the comic. It's just like, yeah, this is not going to work out well in the end, and sure enough, it doesn't. Still a very good episode to watch, but a decent way to end the season, sort of. Again, we'll touch on that tomorrow, so I'll see you then.
This one's for you, Kaiser Bill. Special delivery from Uncle Sam and all the boys in D Company. Yeah, Johnny, Harrison, Brooklyn Bob, and Reggie. Yeah, even Reggie. He ain't so stuck up once you get to...